Hi, today is August 27, 2025. Welcome to episode 33 of the Krishnamurti podcast with Sam Yogi. And today we shall wrap up the second question and answer from the second talk given by J. Krishnamurti at Ommen, Holland on July 28, 1933. Let me repeat the question and we shall proceed from where we left off yesterday, which was episode 32. Question for J. Krishnamurti. I have found that in the process of getting rid of personal barriers, one feels the urge for self discipline. Yet you say that you do not believe in self discipline. What do you mean by self discipline? And in answer, J. Krishnamurti said, and I will start a little before where we left off yesterday to provide continuity. Krishnamurti, because one does not meet every incident of life wholly, there arises conflict which creates memory. Mind identifies itself with this suffering, out of which it creates for itself a self-protective principle, and by this measure all experiences are judged and controlled. It is in suffering only that the mind tries to escape, consciously or unconsciously, to the pattern, and from this there arises the defensive I must and I must not. If you can discern the cause of fear which brings forth these self protective ideals which demand consistency and the rigid following of a discipline, then without the effort of overcoming the fear, the mind will free itself from it. So, this is where we stopped in episode 32, which was yesterday. Now, here he is saying, because one does not meet every incident of life wholly, there arises conflict. So, in a previous talk in a different city, in Alpino, Italy, in the fourth talk, he had said that when you meet, and I am paraphrasing K or Krishnamurti, when you meet and experience wholly, completely, without bias or prejudice, it leaves no memory, no scar of memory. Every one of you goes through experiences, and if you meet them completely with your whole being, then the mind is not caught up in the wave of memory. When your action is incomplete, when you do not meet an experience fully, but through the barriers of tradition, prejudice, or fear, then that action is followed by the gnawing or the gnawing of memory. So here he talks about barriers through which we act, barriers like fear, like prejudice, like tradition. Now, keeping this in mind, let's proceed with what K says next in answer to the question which we are discussing. As there is great separation between thought and action, there must be conflict, suffering, and self discipline is thought necessary to bridge this gulf to realize completeness. Through self discipline, there can never be completeness of action. It is to be realized only when the mind is free from self protective barriers, prejudices, and fears. The mere adjustment to a pattern through self discipline, control, destroys the significance and the revealing depth of action. Thus, the mind and heart gradually become barren and vainly empty. So, here he again talks about barriers. He is saying it is to be realized when the mind is free from self protective barriers, prejudices, and fears. Now, what are these barriers? Again, going back to this fourth talk at Alpino, Italy, which was covered in our episode on August 10, 2025. And you can look it up in the directory of podcasts on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You will be able to get to that specific podcast. But let me repeat it here a little bit so that you understand what K means by barriers. K says, and I am paraphrasing him from the fourth talk at Alpino, as long as there is this scar of memory, there must be the division of time as past, present, and future. As long as the mind is tethered to the idea that action must be divided into the past, present, and future, there is identification through time and therefore a continuity from which arises the fear of death, the fear of the loss of love. So he is going through fear. To understand timeless reality, timeless life, action must be complete. So he is going through completeness of action. But you cannot become aware of this timeless reality by searching for it. You cannot acquire it by asking, how can I obtain this consciousness? Now, what is it that causes memory? So K continues. What is it that prevents your acting completely, harmoniously? What is it that prevents your acting completely, harmoniously, richly in every experience of life? Incomplete action arises when mind and heart are limited by hindrances, by barriers. So he is talking about hindrances and barriers which prevent in your completeness of action. These barriers prevent you from completing an action and from living life fully. K continues in this talk from Alpino, Italy on July 9, 1933, and this has been covered, as I said, in a Krishnamurti podcast by Sam Yogi on August 10. K continues, if mind and heart are free, then you will meet every experience fully. So, for meeting every experience fully, the mind and heart must be free. But most of you are surrounded by barriers. The barriers of security, authority, fear, postponement. And previously we discussed the barriers of tradition, prejudice, and fear. So, K says, most of you are surrounded by barriers, the barriers of security, authority, fear, postponement. And since you have these barriers, you naturally act within them, and therefore you are unable to act completely. But when you become aware of these barriers, when you become aware with your heart and mind in the midst of a crisis, that awareness frees your mind without effort from the barriers you have been preventing, which have been preventing your complete action. So you have to become aware of these barriers. Now, coming back to this answer to the question that was asked on July 28, 1933, as part of the second talk at Ommen in Holland, cases the mere adjustment to a pattern through self discipline, control, destroys the significance and the revealing depth of action. Thus, the mind and heart gradually become barren and vainly empty. So, again, to repeat it so that we grasp what K is saying completely, through self discipline, there can never be completeness of action. So, this is a question on self discipline. What you mean by self discipline and why I should not practice self discipline as per you is the question. And in answer K is saying, through self discipline, there can never be completeness of action. It is to be realized only when the mind is free from self protective barriers, prejudices, and fears. The mere adjustment to a pattern through self discipline, control, destroys the significance and the revealing depth of action. Thus, the mind and heart gradually become barren and vainly empty. I have found that in the process of getting rid of our personal barriers, one feels the urge for self discipline. So, here, as part of the answer, K is paraphrasing the first part of the question. So, the question must have been given to him in a written form, and he is reading the question again. I have found that in the process of getting rid of our personal barriers, one feels the urge for self discipline. End quote. K continues. What is conquered is not lasting. Only through understanding of the cause of limitations do they disappear, yielding place to intelligence. When there is an overcoming, there is bondage. In conquering, there is no intelligence. There is only subjugation and hidden decay. All conquering indicates the attraction of something beyond, but the cause of limitation still remains. It is only in the intelligent understanding of the cause of hindrances that there is freedom from suffering. So what is saying here? What is conquered is not lasting. If you try to conquer something by subjugation, by suppression, it doesn't last. It comes back to haunt you. So that is what K is saying. What is conquered is not lasting. Only through understanding. And we just discussed awareness of these hindrances frees you from the hindrances. So he is saying the same thing in a different way. Only through understanding of the cause of limitations do they disappear, yielding place to intelligence. He says, where there is an overcoming, there is bondage, because you are still tied to that conquering, that suppression. In conquering, there is no intelligence, there is only subjugation and hidden decay. All conquering indicates the attraction of something beyond, but the cause of limitation still remains. It is only in the intelligent understanding of the cause of hindrances that there is freedom from suffering. K continues. Your attempt to overcome limitations is urged by the desire for reward. So you have not overcome your barrier at all. You have disciplined yourself merely in order to get something else. And because you are thinking of what you will get in return for your action, for your self discipline, your action and your discipline have no value at all. So, K concludes here his answer to the question. So, he is saying in a nutshell, you are always looking for a reward from your self discipline. If I do this, if I suppress this, if I discipline myself like this, will I get that? Will I get that reward? So he is saying your attempt to overcome your hindrances, your barriers, your limitations like fear, prejudice, postponement, tradition, security, authority, etc., is currently no discipline at real discipline at all. Your attempt to overcome these barriers is urged by your desire for some kind of a reward. So you have actually not overcome your barrier. To overcome the barrier, you have to become aware of these barriers. Like he said in the fourth talk at Alpino, when you become aware of these barriers, when you become aware with your heart and mind in the midst of a crisis, that awareness frees your mind without effort from the barriers that have been preventing your complete action. But what you are doing right now is going to make your mind and heart gradually barren and vainly empty. As he just said in this answer, the mere adjustment to a pattern through self discipline, control, destroys the significance and the revealing depth of action. Thus, the mind and heart gradually become barren and vainly empty, and one becomes vain. One's heart is not free. One's mind and heart is not free. It is bound. It is barren. The heart is barren and vainly empty. And one vainly practices, if one vainly practices self discipline, one becomes vain. And one thinks that one has self control, but that actually prevents one from fulfillment in life, from completeness of action, as per Jiddu Krishnamurti. So we end the podcast here, and in the next episode, which will be episode 34, we shall go through the third question and answer session from this day, which was July 28, 1933. Thank you. You have a nice day.